So yes, Sara Heermann. I'm an executive coach. I mainly focus in executive wellness and financial coaching. I think I started Heermann Financial in '04. So I've been around a little while, and I have a strong financial background that I've just kind of switched over into the coaching realm, which I absolutely love. So I get to work, one-on-one, and then I love working with executive small businesses and their teams. And today I'm really excited Sharon, can I just start going?
Jump in.
All right. So I am going to preempt, I'm getting a storm and my internet hates me today. So if I'm glitchy, adversity, what do you do? So I was really excited to do this talk when I talked with Simon. We have all been affected in one way or another with COVID and things shutting down and things like that. So when I was talking with Simon about, what I wanted to do with the business lab, really, I just kind of wanted you to go through the journey with me, things that I experienced as a business owner, my clients, and the things that kind of, no matter what type of business we ran, were kind of common themes throughout the whole thing, and what we did to make sure that we're successful coming out of this. So I guess just to get started, when this all happened, gosh, I think back in March, it seems like it was just yesterday, but it's flown by. I remember getting a call from a few of my clients just saying, hey, we have to shut our doors like now. There was no notice. It wasn't in 2 weeks. It was tomorrow. You cannot open your doors. And I remember thinking this. Can everyone hear me?
That's okay.
Life's a little spotty, internet spotty.
Right.
Oh my gosh, I'm so sorry. I really do apologize if I keep doing this. If I do, I will try to join from my phone.
Okay.
So anyway, long story short, basically just when this was all going on, the mentality was obviously to be very fearful. We were being attacked by something that we couldn't see. We didn't understand. We had no idea how long it was going to last. And, when you've been working years for a career, a business, and you've, really put your heart and soul into it, that's terrifying, which I'm sure you can all relate to. So we kind of I gave myself, a good 24 to 48 hours to really kind of wallow in that maybe a little bit and just absorb it. And then, I am a fixer by nature. So I think that my mindset is really what changed everything for myself and my clients. I feel like when we feel out of control, that is when we are anxious and angry. We tend to shut down. We don't know what to do. And it's just a horrible feeling. So when I was talking to my clients, luckily I was able to put my focus on them. I just started thinking, what can we control? So when the world is in chaos, what is one little piece that we can control? So I went back to my skill sets and I started with financials. So I am going to share a screen just to kind of go over, actually, I don't need to share it. I can email it out later. But I felt like there were specific things in our companies that we needed to focus on. And those were financials, our systems that we had in place, our mindset and our priorities, and where we can find growth and opportunity, even when it seems like there is none. So at the very top, obviously, we went into budgeting. This is a strong skill set of mine, not one that most people love to do. Typically budgets are the last thing people want to focus on, but the universe kind of shoved it in our faces that we didn't have a choice. So the positive of this is everyone had to become very, very efficient. We had to start looking through every tiny aspect of what was going on in our companies, where we were spending our money, was it necessary? And we really had to identify, those fixed and variables. And fixed during this time versus fixed 6 months ago became very, very different as well. So the main question we asked ourselves is, do I have to have this in order to continue operations in any capacity? So if I do not need a phone system, the phone system goes. If I don't need a rent, then we get rid of the rent. Because long story short, money buys you time. And in business, you have to look at what you have, your income coming in, your expenses going out. And when there's a possibility of no income coming in, unfortunately, 9 times out of 10, expenses are going to continue going out. So at that point, you got to look at your stockpile and you have to see how many months you have in that bank account to buy you the time you need to know what's going to happen. And that really is across the board, crisis or not. You always need to know you've got that money, because in business, there's great times, there's bad times. That typically happens all the time. It goes in cycles. My apologies. Sorry, my phone's going off too. So the more money you have there, the more time you have to fix whatever issue is going on. So that is the first place that we started. And, you know, the good thing was, because it was thrown in their face, they were able to learn really how important it is. And it's something that we're going to continue doing moving forward. Because again, when this happens, even though it's scary, it really highlights maybe some areas that we could have been a little stronger in, or maybe we were very strong. So with that, I just encourage everyone to, if you haven't gone through that budget, go through it again. I think that this whole thing kind of had a couple of phases. The first phase was chaos and really fearful. The second phase was we kind of got used to this new way of life. You know, you do anything for 2 to 3 weeks, it starts feeling very normal. So we kind of got used to working from home and how we were operating. And then now we have this new phase that we're entering into, which is hopeful, it's exciting, but it's also very unknown. So we don't know what the ramifications will be. We don't know how long they'll last. We all probably have guesses. But as we return to business, for those that had to shut down, it's still really important to know, what are those bare necessities? What do I absolutely have to have? And it's also a really good gauge that you always know, you know, I have to sell this many products. I have to have this many clients. I have to have this type of income coming in every single month in order to hit this bare bones budget. So I highly recommend that everybody knows where their bottom, you know, that leanest budget is. So that's where we started. We started with the money, and that gave us an idea of where do we go from here. And again, this was pre-loans, pre any of that stuff coming out. So once we had a pretty good budget and we could go through and, you know, we kept the people that were essential to our business, we, myself included, we kept the people that we needed to have by our side to reopen. We kept the clients that we needed, all of those things. And the second thing we went into was our systems. And by systems, I mean, how, you know, financially, how are you tracking? How are you invoicing your customers? Are you entering bills? Do you have a way that you know a pretty good snapshot of your company pretty quickly? You know, so again, if you're not tracking those financials, if you're not doing something like QuickBooks or something like that, I'm a big advocate of it, simply because it keeps things very nice and neat, and it lets you know immediately kind of where you're sitting. We also found in the systems was probably one of the biggest areas that we found those gaps. And again, I hope that everyone is taking time to self-reflect and kind of see where maybe they were really strong and some places that they could do a little better. Because again, when we were looking at employees, you know, how do you train employees when you can't see them? How do you hire new people? How do you connect with your clients? You know, all of these things, when you're used to seeing people face to face, how do we maintain that? How do we maintain those relationships, those onboarding processes? So, you know, again, across the board from lots of different walks of life, that's something we struggled with, of where are we now and where could we be and how are we going to adapt? And with those systems, you know, it's really good because you kind of start seeing who those vitals are. So not only is it money that you need, but you start seeing within your employees who's stepping up, who is just becoming this really vital person of your business. For myself personally, clients became very noticeable. There were some that were just absolutely amazing in their mindset and their attitudes and how they just adapted. And then I had some that honestly were just very tiring because they just had a very, you know, can't fix mentality. So it was just really interesting to kind of see the differences in how everyone reacted and who you really enjoyed for, as your clients. I'm going to bring up my screen just so I can stay on track here. So one of the quotes that I did see when we were going through all of this was the life keeps throwing me stones and I keep turning them into diamonds. And for some reason that resonated with me because we got thrown the biggest boulder. We were Indiana Jones with it coming at us as we're running away from it. And we were either going to get smashed or we had to turn around and we have to turn it into the biggest diamond as well. And I am very optimistic that that's what's going to happen. Just because I have seen when you're shown where you can be better and you become better, then you come out of this so much stronger and your company changes in ways that you might not have taken the time before this to see. So again, with the financials, with the systems, we are busy and we know we need to focus on things, but sometimes life just gets in the way and you don't have time. So you just can't. And what this did for a lot of people is in an odd way, it gave them the time to focus on the things that they needed to do to take the next step. And again, financially, systems. So again, I encourage you all to kind of think what worked really well, what was an easy transition for you during this, and where's a place that you just, like panic because you weren't ready. You weren't ready to go virtual. You weren't ready to let go of that client. You weren't ready to let go of that employee. Some of those decisions were probably very, very hard to make. How well did you handle it? So I just think it was a really good opportunity to kind of see where there was a lot of room for growth. Sharon, can I share my screen yet? Were you able to?
Yeah, I think hold on, let me check real quick. Make sure I made you oh, it's because you were off and then back on. So
Sorry.
Now you should be able to share.
Okay, that's fine. I will ramble, so I have to stay on track here. So if you guys, ever have any questions as far as budgeting, all of those things, I am always open to help out with those. Outside of just, those vitals in our businesses and the employees and, were we able to transition? Another thing that I'm a big advocate of is an energy budget. I think of energy like I would a financial budget. We only have so much. The difference between a financial and an energy is energy you can't always go make more of. So you have a limited amount of this. And I think one of the most exciting things that I've seen from my clients is them taking care of themselves. I think I had more clients than I realized really on the verge of burnout because they were giving so much of their time and energy to their companies and they were giving nothing back to themselves. So if we are thinking of energy as a budget and we're setting our fixed and variables, it's the same thing. Where are we when it comes to our spirituality, our creativity, our finances and our career, health, physical activity, relationship, home environment, social life, happiness. Where are we if we have to prioritize that? And what is it looking like? How much energy are we spending? We can't spend 10% of our energy on something and expect it to be successful. And I think I'm probably really bad at that right now because I don't think you can always be in balance. I don't know that you can always give 50-50 or whatever it is. And it really comes in waves. For myself lately, my energy has very much been devoted to my clients. I have been fortunate enough to work from home majorly. I've been able to give my family a lot of my time and attention, which I will always do, but it put me in a place that I was able to give a lot more of that energy. And I think sometimes that's hard to calculate in your head. Sometimes you feel bad that, I'm focusing on work, which means I'm not focusing over here. And especially tending to take care of yourself. It's not a normal thing, I think, to put the mask on yourself before someone else. You think, I want to let me save you. And you can't do that. If you're not there, you can't help them. And it's been really fun to watch my clients realize that they can, sorry, I got distracted, that they're able to prioritize those. So again, when we're looking at it and looking at energy as a budget, you have 100%. I would go back over the last year, the last 6 months, just like you would a financial budget. Where do I tend to spend the most of my time? If I had to gauge 1 to 10, how, 10 being I really focus a lot, 1 being nothing, and you go through those, and I can send out, kind of those categories. Where are you? Are you spending a ton on social and work? And then if so, really evaluate, how are your relationships? If you're in a relationship, your friends, your kids. Again, health and fitness has been huge. It's very easy to become a workaholic, I think, sometimes. And some of my clients actually are kind of dreading going back to work, so to speak, not because they don't want to open back up, but they've enjoyed that morning run. They've enjoyed being able to take a deep breath at lunch. And, so now it's more, how do we incorporate this way of life into the way we're going to run our businesses in the future? So again, I feel like I'm really flying through this. I talk very quickly. On an energy budget, I just would recommend you go through, and any area that you're not devoting a lot of time to, it might be okay. Just kind of try to see when is the last time you did devote that time to it. Because again, it's never going to be in balance. We are simply looking at, and I think it's like financials again. If you go week to week, you're going to drive yourself crazy, because 1 week you might make money and the next week you're going to lose it. But if you look at money over time, that's what we're looking at, is over time, are we building? Over time, are we growing? Over time, do we have more clients than we did 2 years ago? Do we make more? Do I have more in the bank? Are these things better? I think that same philosophy applies to our life. Right now, my company needs a lot of my attention because my clients do. So yes, I'm not giving that to some other areas, but I'm going to give that time back because, I think there's life phases. You have a baby, you start a new job, you get married, you move, whatever. It just takes so much of your time, but you just can't ignore it forever. And that's when burnout happens, is when we're focusing 100% of our time, energy, and attention in one area. And we forget all of these other things that make us us. And then what happens is our companies fail because we're not the best. We're not at the top of our game. We're truly kind of miserable. We're tired. We're cranky. We're not healthy anymore. So our health is suffering. Our relationships are suffering. And then we cannot run our businesses effectively. So again, I think if I had to take something from this time, there was a common theme. That's been it, is oddly enough, some of these family values or just downtime, which people need, was given to us. And that is a blessing. And I think if we look at it that way, it kind of helps us manage everything that's going on. And we don't have to go back to being burnt out. We can find a way to incorporate, even if it's a little bit of that. Because what I've found is my clients are passionate about their businesses again. They are excited about their employees. By utilizing aspects like Zoom and things that they never would have thought to do, they've actually built better relationships because they're focused and they're intentional with it. They're not super busy over here with a million things going on. They're focused on that one person, and what that does is the person on the other end feels very valued. So instead of overturn, again, a lot of my clients are sales and marketing. There's a lot of overturn. They feel like a number, and now they feel like a person. Now they feel like the owner of this company sees them. And what we're finding, I've had a few go back, we're finding that these employees are doing more in sales. They're showing up earlier. They're happier. The atmosphere of the company, the culture of the company is changing, and the owner is happier. And oddly enough, they're making money in a time that people are just trying to get by. And I think that that is something that every single one of us can take into and internalize and apply it to our own businesses. So again, an energy budget is the other thing. Does anyone have any questions, or feel odd just talking at all of you?
It's not so much a question, Sarah, but I've actually never heard the words energy and budget put together. And I'm a little just fascinated by that concept. And I also just really like how you said, you know, it's like that we're never going to be in balance. And I'm like, oh, maybe I should stop trying so hard to be in balance, but to like there's something about letting it swing, you know, and maybe that's where actually balance is found, is being more in a flow with, you know, like letting that like pendulum swing a little bit. It's also just kind of a revolutionary concept. So
yeah, I love that. It is a swing. And I only say that because, again, I am a mother of 3 kids, 14 and 12. You know, we've had a big life move. I've ran a company from a very, very young age. At 24, I think, is when I really started it. And I drove myself crazy for a really long time trying to be perfect at all of it. Trying to be a perfect wife, friend, mother, business owner, women business owner, and I was miserable. I was absolutely miserable. And when I took a step back, and it was probably when my kids were a little younger, it was probably about 10 years ago, not quite, I guess maybe 8 or 9 years ago, I just remember taking a step back and asking myself, why am I so miserable? I've got this beautiful family. I've got this successful business, beautiful, like I have everything that everyone tells you you're supposed to have. And I'm miserable. And I'm sick, and I don't know why I feel so sick. And I just hated everything about everything. And it was because of that. I was trying to attain something that is unattainable. You cannot be perfect at everything. And I found that by trying to split this energy budget that I had evenly, I could never do it. So finally I was like, well, what if I, you know, for a short time give my company 80% of my time? But then it swings back, and my company is self-sufficient. So I can swing back over here and I can give my family 80% of my time, or 50, or whatever it was. And the piece that came with that was life-changing for me. And it's really when I got into coaching the most, is I felt like there was probably a lot of people like me feeling that way. It doesn't matter, male, female. You know, my husband struggles with it too, provider, all of these things. And I think it was just like a weight off your shoulders to know that sometimes it's quality versus quantity. And other times it's not. There are times that I've been working and my kids are right next to me and we're just physically together, but not mentally, but that just can't be all the time. So if you give yourself the grace to swing, like you said, a pendulum, you just find that you're better in all areas. Your company's doing better, your family's doing better, your friends are doing better. And again, I think that that's what this pandemic has done for a lot of people, is it swung it back. And it's really hard to prioritize personal things, I think, sometimes. And that might be completely off, but for me personally, it's easier to put my focus into other people than myself. Sometimes you think your business can't survive if you're not doing everything, and if you don't learn to delegate. And you know, this just swung it back, where sometimes you have no control over anything. No matter how well you ran your business, we're all in the same spot. And that's eye-opening, that you could have done everything right and you're still in the same spot as everybody else. So I'm very passionate about the energy budget, because I think it just brings a better quality of life. And again, I found that personally, I got better clients. My business made more money. I ran it better because I had alignment, even not balance. I had alignment. You know, I had my priorities. They were fulfilled. And, you know, sometimes one gets more attention than the other, just kind of how it is. So, anybody else have questions, or?
I have a question, Sarah.
Sure.
You know, one thing that I notice even for myself, and I see that in clients too, is now there is an awareness of something different. Like you're saying, I'm spending more time with kids, or I'm going for a run in the morning, or things like that. But then there is still the feeling of like needing to go back, the pull to needing to go back. And then there's a guilt associated with wanting something different than what we were like so used to. how do you talk to people about, or how do you help people not just say, okay, you just need to allocate time differently, but like really like emotionally, it's a change, right? And it's something that we're yeah, that's not easy. It's not just a mind thing, it's an emotional thing too. And like giving yourself permission is easy said, but then there's the reality of doing that.
Yeah.
How do you help people with that?
Yeah, I think first and foremost, it's thinking about it. I think we get in a habit of falling back on what's comfortable. And sometimes we just think if we work hard enough, everything will kind of work out. If we just put our head down. And then what happens though is we've got our head down and we're never looking up. And so we never really know where we're at. So, you kind of think of it like a map, or I tell my kids this all the time. If you don't know where you are and you don't know where you want to go, what is anyone supposed to do to help you? Like, I don't know how to help you. So first and foremost, I think it's important to know where you are. Where are you right now? And you have to be honest. You have to do the gut check. Where am I in my business? And I guess this will apply for business and personal. Same question. Where am I? Where am I financially? Where am I spending my time? Where am I happy? Where am I miserable? Where am I? Because that's our starting point. That's where we know, okay, this is where we are. And there's some great things about it. And there's some things that just aren't going to work long term. And then there's the other part of it. Where do we want to be? In your perfect version, in your perfect world, in, no fail zone, whatever. What does that look like? What type and you have to be very specific. You have to see it all the way down to what color are the window shades. You can't just be really vague. And I found that when people know where they are and they know where they want to be, now it's action. And action is so important. We've talked about it, we've dreamed. Now we're going to work backward. It's goals. How are we going to get there? So if we're miserable in our personal life, well, you have to dive in. Why are we miserable? Why is our relationship failing? Why is my kid not talking to me? Why am I going bankrupt? It didn't happen overnight. And if we don't do anything different, then we're guaranteed that result. So we got to change that. And to me, that comes back to priorities a lot. I think priorities are probably the key to everything. Whether you work for someone or whatever career you chose, especially if you opened a business, my company is fueled by my motivation personally. It's fueled by what fills me up, what I want for my family, what my personal goals are. It's fueled by that. So they definitely go hand in hand. So if my company isn't doing well, it's going to affect me personally and vice versa. So I just think it's a check-in. It's, where am I? Are there any engine lights on that I need to fix? And then again, it's a little bit of being a dreamer. Where do I want to be? What does it look like? And then it's simply, okay, how do I get from A to B? And it's one step. It's one step. Sometimes people think they gauge themselves against others, or, we've all done that, where I'm not as good as this person or whatever. They did it in 5 years, it's taking me 10. At the end of the day, it's one step. It's one thing different today that you didn't do yesterday. And that's what I think will be inherently sad, is if when everything, I don't even want to call it normal, whatever, when everything opens back up, and this isn't maybe as big of a thing as it is now, if we just go back to doing what we were doing, we missed the point. We missed the point of all of this, because this has been a very scary time, but at the same time, we all got uncomfortable. We all maybe got hurt a little bit. We all were a little unhappy. And typically that's where you find where you want to grow. It's when your back is against the wall, when you're super uncomfortable, when you really hate where you are in life and you just can't, that's when you make change. That's when you say, okay, can't do this anymore. I'm going to do something different. And I think if you're checking in, that's what that's really what I've been focused on, is what was great before this? What terrified you during this? And what do you love about it too? Like the highs and the lows. What have you loved or what have you hated? And anything that they love, then you have to incorporate it. It's like, I don't know, I had a friend tell me that I am a horrible shopper, that if you see something you love and you can't live without, you will find a place for it. But if you don't, then you probably don't love it as much as you thought. And I thought that was just a really good philosophy. It's the same thing here. If you truly loved having more time with your family, then you will make it work. But you have to know where you are, and you have to know, where can I fit this in? And you have to know that everything comes at a cost. if we do something here, we're probably giving something up here, but it's for the betterment. So I don't know if that answers your question, but I think you need to know where you are and where you want to be, and then we simply figure out how to get there. And we might take some detours, but we will get there. So, I don't know if that answered, but good. All right, does anyone else have any questions?
Sir, I do have one.
Sure.
So you were talking about, the healthy eating, running, exercising to help with that energy budget, which I love that concept. That's great. I'm going to take that. But is there, are there any other suggestions, because busy people sometimes it's tough to work that in. Is there something like quick that can re-energize people that you would suggest, or?
Yeah. I'm a nut for wellness and things like that. And I don't think it has to be, and honestly, if I had to say anything that does generate more energy, it's these things. Personally for myself, like a schedule, a morning start program, where I do the same thing, even now, doing the same thing every morning, where you get that time to, whether I'm a horrible meditator, so I won't say that, but getting that time to yourself. I don't think I've ever met anyone that doesn't need just a little time to reflect. So finding when you can do that. And sometimes that might mean, getting up an hour before your family so that you can have an hour to, devote to whatever it is, whether it's, your religion or just a book or whatever that is. I think self-care is huge. I think Mary, was just talking about getting a massage. You have to find those little things that just are everything to you. We don't need these big grand gestures. Doing 2 minutes of jumping jacks, I promise you, will give you a hit of energy, period. It will. You focusing on eating the right food for you, whatever that may be, is going to make you feel better. And a lot of it is just awareness of how do I feel when I versus when I do this. So that donut was amazing, but I feel terrible afterward. I'm cranky, whatever. Versus this that maybe wasn't so great, but I get this longevity. So I think for the most part, again, it's the awareness of knowing what fuels you quickly. A little hit of exercise, eating the things, at least the majority. I'm a big 80-20. Have some fun, but for the most part, you kind of got to keep it in check. I just know the better you feel. And I think if you pay attention to that, even personally, you might have that week on vacation where you're like, this is great, but I find that, man, I'm irritable. I am tired. I'm not motivated. I want to do all these really great things, but I'm just like, ugh. And it all comes back to, I didn't take care of myself. I didn't do a Sunday self-care routine. I didn't take the hot bath that I wanted to. And I think if you really know what fuels you, you find that they're very little things. It's a massage once a month. It's a bath on a Sunday. It's listening to your favorite podcast. And again, I think the quickest thing to actually get like legit energy, go for a walk, get outside, do 10 burpees. They suck, but do them. You feel better. And I think that you also just know that you accomplished something. So that whole thing of do the thing you hate first thing in the morning, it's stupid. It's true. I'm trying to say it's not true. It's true. You get it done. You don't have an excuse to make, and you feel really good knowing that you got this big brick done first thing. So I would recommend everyone find those things they need, find where they operate best, and then it's a non-negotiable to incorporate them into your life. And you have to put the mask on first, even though it's not comfortable, because you'll end up flying the plane if you do. So take care of yourself. Anybody else? All right, I think I'm still good on a little bit of time. The other two things I just kind of wanted to touch on was, we already have your mindset and your priorities. I can't say enough about mindset. When you think of things negatively, they tend to be negative, and they tend to get worse, and they tend to be bigger, and they tend to boil over into every other aspect of your life. And if you let that one thing derail, then you lose all of that time. And again, we're all about time. And I think when you know your priorities, and again, I can send out kind of a categories of where you're at. I think when you know what's most important, it's pretty easy to make that roadmap of where you want to be. And the last thing I kind of want to go over was just growth and opportunity. Again, I think we all have a really great or a unique ability right now to change the way we do business. And even if we go back to a lot of the ways, they're foundational, they need to happen. But again, go through your own journey from when this started to today. And again, where you want to be. Is there anything we can incorporate? You know, a lot of my clients are going to continue using the Zoom because that frees up the time for them to take the run. So they're incorporating that. They're still going to see face-to-face. They're still going to go into their offices. But they found that there's an ability here to reach more people or sell more products or sell more services that don't take any more time, because it's like this. I don't have to drive an hour to the meeting to have an effective conversation that took me 20 seconds to log on to, unless you have my internet, and then it might take a little longer. But you know, that's an hour worth of time. So if you're going to do a time audit in your life, what can I do with that hour? I can do a lot with that hour. I can either go generate more sales, I can hire another employee, I can just sit and read that book, I can do nothing but watch trashy TV like Bravo, my favorite. You know, you can do all these things. So I really think it's important to kind of go through, you know, one, give yourself a massive pat on the back, because I think everyone here has probably already changed the way they've done business a bit. But how can you take that with you? How can you come out of this a different business, a better business than when you went into it? And, you know, just kind of continuing to grow. And, you know, one of the last things, I think, taking action. We talk a lot. If we don't do something, it doesn't matter. If you spend 20 minutes making a morning start program, but you don't follow it, it doesn't do any good. Me writing, call dad, and I don't actually call dad, you have to take action. So don't just talk about it, start doing it. And the more you do that, the more you find that it becomes natural to just do versus say, and you just get a lot further. And I came across, again, another one of my kind of favorite quotes is, the truth is that our finest moments are most likely to occur when we're feeling deeply uncomfortable, unhappy, or unfulfilled. For it is only in such moments, propelled by our discomfort, that we are likely to step out of our ruts and start searching for different ways or truer answers. And I think that's very true. It's hard to make changes when everything's great. You think you don't need changes. When you are unsatisfied, when you finally get to that point that it's just no longer bearable, is when we make change. And again, find that point. And, you know, again, this pandemic or whatever, I think kind of shoved it at us, that it forced us to do things that we might not wanted to. But again, I think we're going to come out of it a lot stronger and better business owners. So I went really fast. I'm sorry, there's still 30 minutes, but I talked quick.
Thank you very much, Sara. I have one kind of request, because I know you are very masterful in helping business owners with budgeting. Sure. And I know you spent a little bit of time about talking about that, but if you had a few tips, you know, for all of us in our businesses, if we know we have a little bit more work to do on our budgets, and, you know, continuing to look at, you know, keeping our budgets lean, because I know a lot of us are really interested in doing that during this period of time, and probably discovered there were certain things that we thought we absolutely needed that maybe we didn't. Do you have any just suggestions or tips how to keep fleshing out our budgets in ways that, you know, can make the biggest difference?
Sure. I think, again, some of it kind of comes down to the system. So, you know, I think of a budget kind of like a coach's playbook. It's what we are saying we're going to do, and, you know, we have every intention to stick to it. Sometimes you have to revise the playbook, but you have to know what's going on. So if you don't have those stats, if you don't know what you're spending, you're going to feel really out of control. So, you know, I think the first part is we always want to justify why we're spending things. The majority of my day is spent people telling me why they're spending things. But at the end of the day, the number one thing I would look at is, are you making money? Are you in the red or are you in the black? Numbers don't lie, and they're non-emotional. So do you have excess or do you not? And if you do not, then we got to dive in, because you have to always be looking at your inflows and your exflows. You always have to look at the income coming in and the expenses going out. And again, you have to get a really, you really need to know where your essentials, because there's phases. You know, there's the essentials, which are the fixed. We have our optimal budgets, which, hey, if business is good and we want to expand, here's kind of where we might need to actually spend some money to get here. And then we have our, you know, where variables are killing us. And typically, you're not losing a ton of money because you're making a massive purchase. It's the little things. It's those $5 that just add up like crazy. But because we're not tracking it, we think, I'm not spending a ton of money. Why? And you feel out of control. But if you really track it, and all of a sudden you're like, oh, it's because I go to Starbucks 3 times a day at $15 a day. Like, all of a sudden you add $15 a day times 7 days a week. Oh, that's kicking into your budget. And then compound it. I think sometimes with money you have to think a little bigger. When we think week to week, again, it's $15, no big deal. Take that times 52 weeks. That adds up. And sometimes seeing that bigger number is kind of jolting. I always advise my clients to look through their year to date for a year, because typically that's where they'll be like, whoa, what is that? Because it's a big number. And it might be in meals and entertainment or dining or fuel or, you know, whatever the expense is. Very rarely is it payroll. Very rarely is it even their rent. Normally, it's the expenses they're 100% in control of. So when they look through it and they see it as a big picture, they're like, whoa. And so anything that makes you do a double take is an area you should probably dive into. I think it's always smart to renegotiate. You know, if you can get your interest rate down, if you can get them to waive a late fee. Credit cards are huge on this, right, Brandon? The banker relationship is big. Having a relationship, they will waive an overdraft fee sometimes if you didn't mean to do it and you're a great customer. So there's perks there. Even landlords, you know, I think people might be in that position here soon. The real estate guys can tell me or not, but you know, with businesses going out of businesses and big buildings all of a sudden being pretty empty, you're really motivated for me to keep renting my space. Sometimes they'll renegotiate for maybe a longer term lease, but it lowers your monthly cost. I think my biggest tip is you just, again, have to know where you are. So what is your rent? What is your phone? What is your internet? What are the things that you have to have in order to operate? And that's the key number, so that when you're planning, well, then you can go into the optimal. This is just getting me by, but it's keeping my doors open. It's probably not the budget where you're going to grow and expand or anything like that. But if I know here, I know where my danger zone is. And you have to pay attention. It's not something you do a budget and 6 years later you look at it. This is something ongoing. You should look at your budget a lot. I send financials, you know, for the clients that I do a lot of, you know, accounting and bookwork or CFO work for. We do it constantly. I'm talking bi-weekly, monthly. I want you to know where your money is. But even if you're doing it quarterly, at least yearly, look through, know where you're spending your money, know where the fixed, know where things have risen, you know your credit score, know what cards have, you know, maybe gone up in interest, things like that. So I think it's really just knowing where things are. And if you've never done a budget, you got to pull like 6 months worth of your bank statement. You got to know what you've been spending, because that's your habit. Budgets are funny because people are like, oh, I'm only going to spend this. That sounds fantastic. The problem is your history tells me that you really like to spend in this area. So for you to tell me that you went from a $30 a day Starbucks habit to never going to Starbucks again, I don't have a lot of faith in it. Like, it's like a steak eater going vegan. Like, it's going to take some time. Like, I don't believe you can't do it. Those might be baby steps. So if you've never done a budget, you have to know your spending habits. And then there's so many different systems. There's cash systems, there's different bank accounts, there's envelopes with as far as spending, that'd probably be my other tip. Just know how you spend money. Like for myself, my husband loves cash. Cash will fly through my fingers on the dumbest stuff so quickly. I cannot have cash. It'll just be gone and I have nothing to show for it. Something about having to dig in my purse and find my debit card and give it to the person. I can't tell you how many times I'll walk out of a store because the line's too long and that seems like so much work. I just won't do it. So know how you spend money so that if you're triggered, if you're the guy that puts down your card for dinner every time or don't take the card. So if you know those things, you can kind of help with your spending habits. But biggest tip is just get an idea of where you are.
Thank you, Sarah. That was great. Natalie, do you have a question?
I do, and it's just piggybacking on what you just said, Sarah. I've actually started a lot of businesses and had no problems, but I always had partners that know the financial end, and I'm financially, I'm terrified of finances, and so I'm one of those that just looks at, do I have a balance in my bank account? Awesome. And that's the most horrible thing in the world. And I did send you a message that, like, it's truly frightening and I need to talk to you because clearly I can't run a business until, you know, I'm ready for retirement on my own, not knowing. I need like practical things, maybe not as practical as the envelope economy, which I used to teach teenagers, but something like that, because I don't understand all this. And poor Simon, my, you know, my mentor he knows I can't even run a computer hardly. But let alone figure out where my money's going. So yeah. So what do you say to somebody that is running their own company? Well, I'm running too, but I'm only doing it because the only way I'm staying afloat right now is because I have extra investments that I'm chunking in, and I don't want to be doing that.
Yeah. I'm a big fan of itemizing things. So, you know, as far as like your company, again, I cannot preach enough about softwares. They do so much of the work for you. Like Mary said, your QuickBooks.
Yeah, I know.
No, I know. And they're so scary to somebody that probably doesn't know how to do it. Yeah. And here's the thing too. It's why we're all on here. You do the things you love to do and you hire people to do the things you hate to do. You just have to have enough, you need to know enough about it though to know if you're getting screwed over. So you don't have to be a guru. And here's the thing, I get it. Tech is not my thing. I work with Karen because you say DNS server and I'm like, what? I don't know what that is. And I don't even want to know what it is. It's nothing that interests me. I don't want to do it. Just make it work. It's worth it to me to pay someone to do that because I will take the time that it would spend 15 times longer and I'll go generate 15 times the income to make up for that. So one, I think financials are scary, but they don't go away. And financials typically don't get better unless you put focus on it. And the more you know where your money's going, the better you're able to make decisions of what's best for your company. And that goes back to what you're really great at. You know, do I want to stay in a partnership? Do I want to expand? Do I want to do something different? So I think getting someone that you enjoy working with, making sure that you have a good understanding and someone that can explain it to you or can at least tell you, yeah, you're okay right here. You know, but the problem with just saying, oh, there's money in my bank account, I get it, but it doesn't give you a lot of power to know, could you have more for one? And most likely you could. And what do I do with that money and how do I turn it into more money or, you know, especially retirement and things like that. So I think softwares do a lot of the work for you. Once you get them set up, that's the worst part. It's getting them set up. It's terrifying. It's awful. Once you do it, you get it in there. It doesn't take a lot of maintenance and it tells you in a quick second, hey, Natalie, you're making money this month. So even if you don't want to change a thing, if you do the same thing you did this month, next month, you'll make money. And it's as simple as that. But it also gives you the power to see, maybe you're spending monies in ways that you're like, that's not serving me at all. I'm just literally throwing it away. And I think not knowing, that's what we typically do. We signed up for some subscription that we forgot about, but it's taking $30 out of our bank account every week, and again, or every month. And you compound that, that's a lot of money over time. So if you don't love money, I get it. I would recommend, though, that you at least find someone that you like talking to that can help you understand.
Well, that's why I'm talking to.
Perfect.
Thank you.
Anyone else have questions for Sara? Okay, Sara, be sure to drop your contact information into the chat. And thank you so much. I mean, you gave us a lot of food for thought. I think that we can apply to every corner of our lives. So I hope you all found this conversation enriching and thought-provoking. I'm sure all of us have at least one thing that we're kind of chewing on. And if anybody, I would look at who's on this screen before we hop off. I know a few of you came on late, so you didn't get all the introductions, but think about if there's anyone here that you want to connect with. Probably a lot of you would love to do a one-on-one with Sara. She's brilliant and has expertise in so many different areas. So I do encourage you to reach out to each other following this meeting and, you know, schedule a time to hop on the phone or Zoom. If any of you don't see the person's information that you want in the chat, you can always email me and I can send you an introduction and make sure that you can connect with whoever you'd like from this meeting today. So anything else, Simon, in closing? You're muted.
Big thank you, Sara. I took a lot of notes. I love my business is fueled by my enthusiasm. If we go back to what we were doing, we missed the point, you know, of all of this. And also the concept of like, where did you really panic when things like really stopped? And like going back to like, what were like the emotions and what do I need to work on in my business to not have that happen again? I think those are all like really, really important takeaways that if we don't do it right now, chances are we're running into, you know, back to status quo and the wheel spinning. So thank you very much.
Yeah, sure. I just think things are opening, and we're gonna, you know, there's that aspect too where everything is going to it's not going to go back to normal, but you know what I mean? Like everything is going to open back up, and then it's like hit the ground running, and we might not have the time that we have right now, but we have at least today, you know, maybe even tomorrow to think of these things before you're back and running, which is hopefully sooner rather than later. And I think that once that happens, that's when we're going to fall back in our comfort zone. Is I don't know what to do new, so I'm going to do what I know to do and just hope it works out. So yeah, I think we've got a little bit of time to evaluate and make a good plan. But thank you guys so much for letting me on here.
Yeah, thank you, Sara. And thank you, everyone. It was great to be with you this afternoon, and wishing you a great rest of the week and nice weekend. And we'll be together soon. All right. Goodbye, everyone.
Thank you.
Bye, everyone.
Thank you, everyone. Thank you.